Hello, everyone. First of all, let me thank you for your continuous interest in this 1D4 for ambitious chess improvers repertoire. So it had a recent update for 2025, basically, and uh, again, there was a lot of interest and many new people joining to the course. So yeah, thanks a lot for that, and also thank you for the interest of our new course with Angelica 1E4E5. So yeah, first I wanted to say this, so thank you very much. I will try to continue model games. Obviously, as you can see from the videos, the schedule is uneven to say the least, sometimes with months as a break, but okay, let's start with today's game. So we will continue in the Nimzo Indian. First, I showed it how actually we reached the position which I would like to talk about today. So in this game, it went like d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and knight f3. So obviously, this is not the way to reach any kind of Nimzo Indian position. So let's see how it went. d5, knight c3, bishop b4. So it started as the Ragozin, and white played this line with queen a4, forcing the knight to c6. And okay, then e3, castle, queen c2, dc, bishop c4, castle e5, h3. I believe basically at this moment it's already transposition, but I'm not sure. But ed, h6, a3, and 97. So basically, yeah, this is the starting position which I would like to discuss. So you could see that it came from the Ragozin, but why it is relevant for us, because we play knight c3, bishop b4, queen b3, and now black reacts with knight c6. This case, e3, d5, knight f3, castle, a3, so you can see the moves are getting similar. dc, bishop c4, bishop d6, and yeah, in this position, white kind of has to lose a tempo in a way, because knight a5 is a threat attacking the queen and the bishop, and that's not something white necessarily want to allow. So queen c2, e5. Now black's plan is to develop the bishop to g4. Obviously white doesn't want to see that. And now takes d4, takes. Black plays h6, castle, and knight e7. So this is how we reach in the repertoire this position, which came from a completely different opening and move order in this game. Maybe I briefly mentioned that rook e8 looks maybe tempting for black, but actually it doesn't do that much. White can just reply with bishop to e3, and the weakness on f7 is quite, can be quite problematic without the defense of the rook. And it's a little bit hilarious, I have to say, that Leach's engine, which is okay, probably not the strongest, but it recommends to play rook f8. But it illustrates the point that f7 is quite weak, and white can try with moves like knight g5 to attack it. All right, so let's go to this position of a3, and okay, black plays knight e7. I would say most logical move. The critical in this position for black to somehow organize blockade on d5, so this bishop on c4 will be not so unpleasantly attacked on f7. So knight e7 is the correct move in my opinion. So black wants to set up with c6 and knight d5 most likely. And here it's already a question for white. I believe there are two possible ways to play this position. I mean, one was the game, bishop d2. It's understandable. And the other one is to immediately play knight to e5. So, I mean, the knight is obviously quite strong on e5. White can follow it up with developing the bishop to a more active square on f4 and then bring the rooks into the center. That would be quite a natural plan to do. And yeah, the bishop on f4 is definitely better than on d2. So how can black play in this position? I mean, for example, c5 could be one question. That what happens if black immediately undermines this knight on e5, but in fact it's a serious mistake because after queen b3 there is simply too much pressure on f7, and yeah, black is already in a lot of trouble in this position. Like if something like queen e8 has to be played, then after rook e1 it's really bad. I mean, even if black takes this pawn, I mean there is already knight f7, for example. Okay, quite nice lines from the computer, but the main thing is that okay, this pin on f7, then on e file, and so on. Like it's really bad for black. So this is not good. If black is playing something like knight f5, once again the idea is that, you know, kind of exploit this knight e5 so the d4 pawn is not protected anymore. But the problem is that again this move of bishop e3 is there. So I kind of just wanted to show this that for the reason that white is not afraid of knight takes e3 at all, because after fe the rook is opened up, and you know, again the pressure on f7 is really unpleasant, and okay, basically already black is in a lot of trouble. For example, the most natural move I would say is queen e7, trying to attack this knight, but it's already super dangerous. For example, takes f6 is already possible. So gf6 is unplayable because we shouldn't forget about the pin here. So after queen g6, here, I mean, it's a mate in a couple of moves. I mean, knight g6, for example. Black already has to give up the queen, which is not enough for anything for sure. So obviously the question, I mean, bishop e5 is not a question because the pawn actually protects the rook. So again, black should try for this gf6, but then there is queen g6 again winning. So it's not helping. And in case of queen f6, then white is playing rook f1. And yeah, there are big problems on f7. So maybe relatively best is to try this bishop e5, rook f6, bishop f6. So materially speaking, black is doing well. Two rooks for the queen and equal number of pawns, but the problem is that this king can still get under attack and black is undeveloped. So for example, knight d5, bishop to d8, and let's say queen e4 with ideas like bishop to d3. I mean, unfortunately for black, he is like a few moves away from getting a decent position here. So overall, even in this case, black should play c6 and then white plays bishop f4, and it's a little bit of a different game. The bishop can also retreat sometimes to g3. It's maybe more positional than the game, but objectively it may be slightly better. I mean, it's still, you know, black is under pressure. It will be not a mating attack, but it will be really difficult to get rid of this e5 knight. So in the game, bishop d2 was played. I mean, and the intention is clear from white that he wants the bishop on this diagonal and with some potential sacrifice on h6. So it's absolutely clear. Black played c6. I mean, that was the plan. Rook f2 e1. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a fine move, but I would say knowing what white wants to do, rook a d1 may be more logical in a sense, but of course, again, bishop f5 is there, and probably what white didn't like so much that in this situation there is knight e4, maybe initiating some trades, and maybe the bishop can get closer to d5 that way. So maybe that's why the rook came to e1 to stop this trade. Okay, nevertheless, bishop f5, queen c1. So both sides are playing logically here, and the position is around even. But black starts to make some questionable decisions very soon. So obviously, like now you have this target on h6, but you know black has a lot of pieces around the king, so it shouldn't be enough, so to say. So I believe a good move would have been knight g6 for black, because okay, now the two knights are like very close to the king. I mean, bishop takes h6 is not working at all, because after recapturing, thanks to the knight on g6, there is bishop f4, and okay, white can self-pin with knight g5, but there is no mate there because there is the other knight, and you can see like with 4 pieces over there, there shouldn't be anything. And if there is no bishop h6, then you can say that this whole setup didn't work out that well, and it would be really good at least to have the rook, not cut out with the queen. So yeah, I believe knight g6 would have been a quite nice move, and then okay, black can continue with rook e8, for example. So it would have been an unclear position. Instead, black went knight to d5. I mean, this is also, of course, logical. Now white went knight to e5. And yeah, from this moment on, I don't really like black's play. I mean, it's still, there is big tension in the position here, but, black still had a few moves to make, like which, for example, rook c8 is one of those moves. Like just to bring the rook in case any trade happens on d5, then there could be the queen exposed. I mean, that's one possibility. Another possibility is simply to remove the bishop to h7. You will see the point of this move in the following variations. It is also a useful move for black. Yeah, so such moves. Black decided to release the tension with knight takes on c3. But it makes this bishop again much stronger, and after bc3 there is no more isolated pawn, but hanging pawns, and I believe it's in long term it's definitely some sort of an improvement for white. And yeah, I mean, with this bishop open, this bishop takes on h6 threat is really, really strong. So I mean, knight c3 is okay. Like, let's say I don't like it, but it's still playable probably. But now it was really quite serious mistake, I would say, this c5 move. So instead of trying to blockade, black is trying to challenge white center, which is also some possible way, obviously, but simply, the pieces are ready to attack now. Black traded one very important potential defender in the d5 knight, and yeah, so this type of play is a little bit slow. I mean, black would need cd, then bring the rook, and then maybe it would be okay, but yeah, just not quite in time. So white played queen d1 in this position, but actually it was already possible to go for this sacrifice of bishop takes h6, and I'm not sure what was the line that white didn't like here. So after g takes on h6, queen h6, obviously. So white already has 2 pawns for the piece, and there is this very straightforward plan of bringing the rook to g3. And very importantly, it's not a 2-move threat for white at this moment, but rather a 1-move threat, because queen g5, picking up the bishop on f5 is also a threat. So that's why I said that earlier that bishop h7 would be useful, because if the bishop is there, first of all, the king could hide sometimes, but I mean, most importantly, the bishop is not hanging now to this queen g5. So according to the computer, the only way to stay in the game is knight h7. So stopping this queen g5. Now obviously white plays rook to e3. And maybe what was unclear for white player in this game, that what to do after queen f6. It looks like the queen is coming, and maybe there are enough defenders, and indeed it's not so obvious, but after queen h5, actually again, black has a lot of problems. I mean, this bishop is super strong, so there is no bishop g6, it's always taken. I mean, taking on e5 is not really good. I mean, the pawn takes back, rook is coming to f3 to pin the queen, and yeah, there are not really good solutions at this moment. The other rook can just come to e1, and in the worst case, it's very, very dangerous for black, but even it's objectively pretty bad. So taking on h6 would have been already possible, but yeah, white decided to play queen to d1, which is also not a bad move, by the way. Just trying to bring the queen to f3 maybe, or to target the light squares as well. But yeah, obviously bishop h6 was better, and now black had a chance to, you know, stabilize a little bit, like for example taking on d4, take d4 and rook c8. So that's what he wanted, I believe, to open the c file, attack the bishop, maybe the rook can protect on the 7th rank and so on. So it was sometimes bishop e6. So it was still completely unclear. I mean, white is better, but black still has defensive resources at this point. Instead, basically black continued this kind of aggressive strategy. So instead of just blockading, he kind of went for the attack himself against the center. So now he went knight to e4. But yeah, I mean, this is a little bit too much, you know, with all of this potential sacrifices on f7, h6, and so on. So this is basically already the losing mistake. White played knight takes on f7. The rook takes on f7. Bishop f7, king f7. So materially speaking, black is doing excellently, but here white has a nice move thanks to this queen d1. Now there is queen f3. So basically not only attacking f5, but also attacking e4 with the rook, thanks to the pin. And I mean, black should have played queen f6 in this position, but yeah, the position is, I would say, just losing at this point. Down a pawn, b7 is hanging, the king is open, so it's not really realistic to have any serious chances to save this position. Instead, white went for knight d2, but after queen f5, it's even worse. Okay, probably king g8 should have been played, but yeah, doesn't really matter, I guess, because white is playing rook e2, and thanks to the weakness of this diagonal, the knight is actually trapped on d2, so it doesn't matter where it goes, queen d5 or queen e6, just picks up the piece with the winning position. So yeah, it didn't really matter. Black played queen f6, and after queen to d5 check, black resigned because rook e6 is coming no matter where the king goes, and then white is picking up the bishop and most likely later the knight as well. So it was kind of a shorter game, but I believe illustrates what are the dangers for black if they are not, you know, staying solid in this variation. And in general, it's quite dangerous because yeah, if h6 is not coming, then bishop g5 can be unpleasant, and as you could see in many of the lines, with the pawn on h6, that with potential sacrifices, it's I would say easier to play on the white side, but yeah, it's just a complicated game in general. All right, so thanks a lot for watching, and see you in some other video.